I've just picked up my new triclicks diesel heater. It's a Chinese diesel heater, and I'm going to put it together on video just to try and help you guys out a little bit. I know how these go together because this isn't my first one. Got a couple others of these now, so I'm really happy with them. Firstly, there's the tank, metal plate, instruction manual for what it's worth. About the best bit for it is this little back bit, just showing you what's what. That's about the best thing in the whole instructions. Got another couple boxes. You'll need some tools to help you put your Chinese diesel heater together, some cutters, a flathead screwdriver, an adjustable spanner, and some sort of mole grips would really help. Here's a labelled picture of all the parts with all the names, just in case you're unsure. You might want to pause here just to study it a bit closer and then carry on with the rest of the video. So to start with, we've got exhaust, which this bit goes on. We've got air intake, which this bit goes on. We have fuel, which is these bits. We have air out, which is that bit. We have the electrics here, and we have a fuel pump. So to start, this bit here will fit over onto here. This is so that it can be mounted easily. That will fit over on there. You've then got 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a fifth there, but that goes with that for later. So these fit on. Just tighten them up. The spanner. Next, we're going to put the exhaust on. So the exhaust, pull off the blue bits. If you leave them on, you'll get a horrible burning, melting smell. So once I've taken the plastic off the exhaust, I've put the first Jubilee clip around the exhaust pipe before adding the condensing muffler. Then you tighten it with a flathead screwdriver until it gets nice and secure. It might click once. If it does, just tighten it again, but not too much. Once it's secure, you can then add it to the actual diesel heater. It's worth noting here that that little hole in the top of the metal where it fixes to something, that should be at the top, because at the bottom there's a little hole that allows the condensing water to escape so that it doesn't actually flood the exhaust. Jubilee clip over. Screw it down in. Nice and secure. Next bit. This bit. Black flexible metal tubes sometimes need pulling out and flattening out a little bit to fit onto the actual opening. Nice and secure. That's them two bits done. Now we have the fuel line. Here I'm just using some grips to remove the little rubber fuel cap. We can construct the fuel line as follows. So this onto here, mark it along. You know you'll need that, plus some more. So now we've worked out the length of the black fuel line connector, you can cut another 6 pieces of equal length so that you can have bits to fit either side of the fuel filter, either side of the fuel pump, and one for the fuel tank. You should find that the 6th piece is actually only a spare piece, but it's a sort of equal amount of size left over, so perfect as a spare. 4, 3 and 4. 5 and 6. One will be for the fuel tank and one spare. First line is going to be out from this to this. Depending on where you're going to mount it, you're going to want about 40 centimeters between that and this. 40 centimeters. That will there. This goes down to the fuel pump. So the top of the fuel pump is the bit with the actual connector. That's the top. So it will be this way. And when it's positioned, so when you've installed it, you're going to want it to sit at an angle of up to 45 degrees. It's just so that the air bubbles can then come out. If you set it upside down, it won't last. If you set it in line, you're likely to get error codes. So next bit, put on your fuel line rubbers. You've got the connectors. Pair of mole grips really do help here. Helps to hold it on. There's one of these on here. Ready for this one. Push it down until it's reached the end. You can tell by the feel. Some people have said mark it with a pen, which you can do, but you can tell, you can feel it when it's there. We'll put this on ready because this is what you're going to connect it to something, maybe the inside of your van or something like that. So it will obviously be, it will be the other way up, but you'll be having it like that. So your next bit of fuel line is for your fuel filter. So this can be as long or short as you want. In this case, I don't need it very long. If this rubber is really, really hard, you can warm it up slightly. That will actually help. Okay, next bit. Put on there. Take that cap off. There will be a residue in there. It's like a diesel residue. We put that to the top to start with. Push this on. And move that down. Now this bit is going to go to the filter. Now a lot of people would assume that fuel comes in through the basket and then collect. It's actually the other way around. So fuel comes in and showers over the basket. So until you've worked out how far away your fuel tank is, where it's going to be and all that lot, I would recommend just attaching one end so you know it's there and then leaving the other bit. If I stand that up like that for now, this bit is going to end up on here, and then depending on how you want it, this bit will go on the end. Now this type of pipe is really fiddly, so you have to really stretch it out and get rid of sort of the rib bits before everything fits on it nicely. Right, that's going to fit nicely. Put this back down for now. Now this moves around, so it doesn't actually matter where you connect it, which orientation. Okay, and that's that bit. Now some things to note: this will get really, really hot. It needs to be kept away from this. So initially it might be worth putting a cable tie around that just to make sure it stays away from that. Also, when you actually come to install this, unless this is going on the base of a van, so for instance like that, in which point you have the exhaust going underneath and out, that's not a problem. If it's inside, you're going to probably want to go out a wall one way, so this will be turned round to go outside. This you would, if possible, also have outside, so you don't produce a negative pressure whereby air is sucked out because it's blown out through the exhaust. Let's have a look at the electronics. So the electronics are quite simple. You've got a little remote there. We have live, negative for the battery. This is just a fuse. You've then got the main power source. So if you look on this, it's got a little gap there and a line there, and that clicks together nice and simply. You then have a bit with a metal bit on top, plug, that clips on nicely to that. This then clips on to the controller, and you have your electrics. To show you the connecting of the fuel tank, I'm going to do that up on the bench. There are two quite different ways to add your fuel tank to your diesel heater. I'll show you both now. So the first method is simply to find a container. Here I've got a 10-litre plastic container, and is to drill a hole in and directly feed the fuel line into. Make sure you keep it a little bit off the bottom, maybe an inch or two, and this works perfectly for people who've got a workshop or a shed or something like that. Couple points to remember is to make sure that you put a little vent hole somewhere in, maybe in the lid or something like that, so it doesn't create a vacuum. You'll also need to make sure that the fuel line goes into an area where it's unlikely to get water or other contaminants in. So in this little dipped bit on the lid is not so good. So find a little area where it's unlikely to draw water or anything like that. I think we'll go with the front. I'm using a size 5 drill bit. Yeah, and we're through. Now this fuel line should go through really snugly, and it does. There's a second way of doing the fuel line. This is to actually put a hole at the bottom corner, something like that. There's a place there you could do it. Somewhere, again, not right at the bottom, but you know, an inch or so off the bottom would be fine. The only problem with this method is if there is a fuel leak, you lose all your fuel if it goes through there. But in a lot of camper vans, this will be sat upright with the top bit there so that you can fill it up in situ. Now to do this, what you'll need is to get yourself some sort of wire. This is just a piece of copper wire. It's not a massive piece of wire, but you'll need a drill and you'll need the bits of kit, a bit of the rubber fuel line, and that's it. Right, so I've drilled it with a 6.5 bit, so I just fire it. So with it on there, that will just help to give it a seal. Feed this through. That's it through. Feed that through there, because that's the way we want it to come in. You want that one coming out. Pull it through, and then once the tap's fully through, you can use a little bit of pulling force to pull out the wire. Now screw the nut onto the tap so that it's nice and secure and won't leak, and then you can add the little bit of fuel hose connector, and then finally return back to the diesel heater setup and add the fuel line. I'm not going to cut this down yet because eventually this is going to go in my horse box conversion, so at the moment I don't want to cut the cord. That is now all connected. It is now put together. Okay, so let's have a look at the controller. The first thing obviously to do is connect it to power. If you're going to use an AC power adapter like me, make sure that it's at least 5 amps because it will need it for when the glow plug first heats up. If not, you can use a 12 volt battery, one that's at least 12 amp hour. And obviously you've got to find a way of charging that each time, so to a solar panel and control panel will be fine. If not, you can get a battery charger. Okay, first step is obviously connect the power, turn it on. This is how it will look. To draw fuel through the line, you hold the spanner and the down button. It then flashes up with this number. Now, the 0-20 means 20 seconds. For most fuel lines, that's probably enough. What I would recommend in this point is to actually look at your fuel line. You can see it. You might need to put your phone torch or something like that, but you can see it pumping along. This completely depends on how long your fuel line is. At the moment, mine's already drawn through, So I'll just show you quickly. I can change this amount by going up and down. Obviously, if you go down to 0, there's no more. If you press the spanner key, it goes to the next bit. So let's say I want, I don't know, 80 seconds. After that, it will automatically take it through to the hundreds for you. So my recommendation would be to start at 20 seconds and then see how much fuel draws through. So if you press then the OK, it starts drawing. You can see this comes up. I'm going to stop that because mine's already there. If you draw too much, all that will happen is that fuel starts to leak out. Okay, so let's now go through. You've drawn the fuel through, so now you can actually start up your machine. Let's face it, you want to know it works before you start fiddling around with all the other timers and the settings. So to start, it's very simple. Press the on button. That's it. One short on turns it on. Now you'll see the glow plug thing comes on. That's to show that the glow plug is heating. This is when it draws the most amps. Remember, this has got high amps because you're on a low voltage. With that in mind, if you're connecting up to a car battery or something like that, make sure you use a thick enough wire. If you're not sure where to get the connectors, the best place, if you live near the coast like I do, a chandlery will do them. If not, you try your Screwfix and your tool station or your local battery centre. They're normally really helpful with showing you what you need. The battery centre will also, if it's a good one, be able to recommend a charger for your battery, even solar options as well. Now, the fuel pump starts ticking. The light is now on and it's ticking away and it starts to draw in. Your fan's going round, showing that it's circulating. You've got your two bits here showing that air is coming in, exhaust is going out. And we're up and running. So now, what can you do? At the moment, it shows 16 degrees. Okay. There's a number of ways of changing the settings on this. So the main one I use, because I'm used to doing it by sort of a power level, not by a temperature, I just click up and you can go through your power settings between 1 and 10. Once you're at that, you don't need to press anything else. It's taking it there. It might not straight away go up on power on this because at the moment it's still in its first heating phase. You should now start to hear the click going a bit more. And the diesel heater itself starts to sound louder. You can see these lights going up more. And it starts to power up. Now it's still showing 16 degrees here. That's just showing the temperature of what this is recording. That's the basics that you need to get going and to enjoy your diesel heater. For more information on how to use a controller, check out my video listed above there. And I hope you enjoyed. Please like and subscribe, and thank you very much.